Alright, welcome back to the SuperCoach Nuff channel and the SuperCoach NRL team-by-team analysis for the 2025 season. In this video, we're going to look at the Bulldogs. So for those that are new to the channel, you'll very quickly learn the Bulldogs are my team. Lifelong supporter, even though born, raised, and never have left Queensland. But exciting times for the boys this year. But we're going to look at it in terms of SuperCoach relevance. So we'll start from the back. I've got pretty much the whole back line here. Yep, there we go. Just trying to fit it all in. So Connor Tracy, you would imagine starts the season as fullback. In terms of SuperCoach, interesting that he's got the centre wing dual, given that I don't think he actually played a game in the centre wing. He played every game at fullback last year when he did play. I might be wrong. I am a Bulldogs fan, but I am prone to mistakes. So a little bit, more expensive than currently. I've got those, underpriced keepers, a bit closer to the 500k range. But if I find a bit of cash, I could see a world where Tracy does sneak into my team. Obviously, you got Blake Taaffe as a backup. Potentially, Stephen Crichton could shift back if needed. But, I think Crichton's established himself now as an absolute jet in the centres. So they'll definitely use Taaffe first, and then they'll work it out from there. Speaking of the centre wing line, pretty settled with Kiraz, Crichton, Cherry. And there's an argument for all three of those guys appearing in your team. Obviously not all three together, but any of those three, I should have said. I've currently got Kiraz. He's quite expensive at 700k, but he is built for SuperCoach with his tackle busting, his work rate, his ability to score and make things happen. Stephen Crichton and Jerry, sort of a bit underpriced, but can go on those runs. So probably not keeper level, but if you want to take a punt on someone in that price range, there's worse options than those two. Probably the most debated spot is the open wing spot with the Fox heading off. So I'll put Montoya in here. I think they'll go for his experience. Personally, if it was me, I like the look of Blake Wilson and would happily play him in the NRL team every week. And if he does get that starting spot, I would consider putting him in my team because very much like Kiraz, he's a work rate guy, always willing to put his hand up and run the ball, can finish a try. His price point is a little bit just based off his lack of opportunity. Tuala's another new import. Can cover wing or centre. So I think, particularly if there's an injury in the centres, he'll be the next man up. Interestingly, they've got Harry Hayes listed as a centre when he played through the middle off the bench last year. So I think he does play more on the edge in reserve grade, but they have used him as a middle previously. But with some of the purchases this year, he may have slipped down the totem pole a bit. So just put him in there more because it was an interesting sort of decision rather than, actually probably going to make it into our SuperCoach teams. The halves, so I do like Burton as a premium halves option. 5'8", there's a little dip in terms of the high-end quality. And the Bulldogs do have a good run to start the season, so he is currently locked in as my starting 5'8". There is maybe a little bit of bias, as I said, Bulldogs fan and a massive Burton fan. So, happy to start him, but I can understand people going with a different selection there. In terms of the backups, they've only got Oluwapu listed, and he has since gone to the Dolphins. I'm pretty sure. Either that or he's going next year. If he's still at the Dogs, he might be a chance of getting a game at some point. But, you'd imagine probably Drew Hutchinson would be the replacement. And I didn't put Hutcho in the halfback conversation because you've got Toby Sexton, obviously impressed last year and probably will get the start. But there is a couple of impressive young guns, and probably the main one is Mitchell Woods. So a bit like in the Broncos team preview that came out before this, we talked about Cody Black being the long term solution. I think Mitchell Woods is that similar long term solution for the Bulldogs at 7. So I think he will get a game at some point this year. Um, Obviously, if Sexton gets injured early, they may just go with the safety of Hutchinson. But once he's got a bit of time in the reserve grade and stuff, towards the back end of the year, we could see him get a start. The forwards again with the Bulldogs always quite interesting. I guess the hooker conversation won't take too long. Reed Marnie locked in, plays pretty much 80 minutes every week. Um, but because of that, is prone to a few missed tackles just because he tries to make so many. It's just his game style. So, and potentially will have a run where he gets some try assists and things and looks really good, but probably not a season long keeper. Obviously, if he goes down injured, Jake Turpin would be the next man up, and at his price, and like I said, their lack of options at hooker, they could obviously use Kurt Mann or Haywood to spell someone like a Turpin. But starting hooker at 230k, you have to consider that. The front row, so I'm pretty sure King and Hughes will be the starters. They do have a Monet this year. Um, they've wanted that bigger body up front, and he could get some good minutes. I've currently got him sitting on my bench as my cheap front rower. I think for those front rowers that are under 300k, he is the best value looking option at the moment, based off what he was able to produce in the Super League. And I put Josh Curran there just because the second row is stacked and probably the one with the most moving parts, I suppose. But there is also Saluka for feeder on the books. Ryan Sutton, I think, may have moved on already as well. And Seve is a cheapy option, could get a start if he develops this year. Um, but I'd imagine, that's probably the starting middle rotation. The second row, as I said, is where there's a lot of options, but you'd imagine Preston, Kikau, Man are the preferred starting three. Preston is an interesting point of difference given his ability to run gaps. Kikau, if he wasn't doing so much work off the ball, he's always leading the kick chase and that sort of thing. If he just saved himself for the attacking upside sort of thing, he'd be an absolute weapon. But he is limited because he is such a selfless player. And man, obviously, it looks good when he's on the field. He is the best 13 they've got, but he does job share with Haywood and or Salmon. So, they sort of basically just split it 50-50 in terms of minutes. And a lot of their role is just distributing. They're not really running the ball. They're not ball runners as such. They obviously do a bit of defence in the middle, but mostly just, that link play to the edges. Tupanua, obviously a new recruit this year. It'll be interesting to see how they use him. I sort of see him as coming off the bench, so might sort of eat into Preston and kick out time, which is probably why I won't start with Preston, even though I do like him as a point of difference option. But yeah, Tupanua could end up sort of becoming like a Josh Curran, where can sort of come on early and then play big minutes. Could potentially play through the middle. He does have a bigger body, definitely taller than Salmon, Haywood, Man sort of prototype. But he has been known to also play out in the centres, so he could almost take the Jamin Salmon role of just the bench utility sort of guy, plugging holes wherever. So in terms of other second row options, Hopboy looked good at times last year, but probably will continue to develop. Um, he's not on the list yet, but they have just brought Ma'u, I think it is, over from the Warriors. I'll just bring up the Warriors team. He is listed as a second rower as well, so Zion Ma'u. But it looks like they're keen for him to become a bigger body middle forward. So another one for the watch list. Did look good in his game last year. Yeah, he played one. So one that's very interesting who has just come to the Dogs. As I said, I don't think Sutton's on the list anymore. And Oluwapu, I've actually forgotten what the full story is there with him. But yeah, that's the Bulldogs preview. Or actually, I guess to summarise, in terms of options, Kiraz and Burton I like as keepers. Tracy as a potential pod in the centre wing, given that he is playing fullback. Um, and then Tomamone as a cheap front rower. So those are the guys I'd consider at this point. Obviously, if other cheapies like Woods and that get a run, we always consider them. But yeah, I hope they go well this year. As I said, as a Bulldogs tragic. So if you've got any questions, comments, thoughts about how the Bulldogs will go this year, feel free to throw them in the comment section below. Give us a thumbs up if you enjoy the NRL SuperCoach content and this team by team preview stuff in particular. Subscribe for all the fantasy sports content on the channel, and other than that, we'll catch you in the next one.